So, you're interested in learning how to invest. Well, lucky for you, I am going to do my best to show you how to invest. I'm going to try to do this all in as close to one take as I can, so there's going to be some slip-ups, some shenanigans, but just bear with me. Also, ignore the fact this is a private browsing tab. I'm just signed in on another tab, and I don't feel like signing out to show how to do all this stuff, so ignore it. I'm not suspicious, I promise. So anyways, you want to learn how to invest. First off, you have to open an investment account. There's a lot of different kinds of accounts. So what kind of account will you open? I advise opening a Roth IRA. The only stipulation to this is you have to have a job. Trigger warning. So if you are unemployed, you're kind of out of luck. But if you don't have a job, I don't think investing should be the top of your priorities anyways. So why a Roth IRA specifically? Well, a regular brokerage account is subject to capital gains taxes, which means if you buy and sell stocks, any gains that you make on your investments will be subject to capital gains. If you sell your gain, where's the short-term rate? Okay, short-term capital gains are just basically normal, subject to normal income tax. So you will pay at least 10% tax even if you are broke, and the more money you have, the more money that you make, the more of a percentage you'll pay. Boo, taxes. If you hold on to those investments for at least a year, you'll pay long-term capital gains tax. So depending on how much you make, you could pay anywhere from 0% to up to 15 or 20. If you're watching this video, I promise you, you're not going to be paying 20%. You're probably going to be paying 0%, to be honest. But say you're balling out one day, you want to prevent having to pay any taxes. So that's why you go with a Roth IRA. A Roth IRA, you do not pay taxes on any investments that you have. Whether it's short-term, long-term, you pay no taxes. The only problem with that is you cannot access the money from your Roth IRA, or you can't withdraw it until you are 59 and a half. Now, there are a couple caveats to that. You can withdraw any contributions you make, so not your earnings, but your contributions. You can put in up to $7,000 a year in a Roth IRA. But say you're balling out, you're picking good investments, and you have, say after year one, you've put in $7,000 and you made $1,000 on that, so you have $8,000 in total. You can only withdraw $7,000 if you really need to. If you withdraw the other $1,000 that you made, you will have to pay penalties and/or taxes on it. Unless there are some of these different stipulations, say you're withdrawing it to buy a house or something. That's not really a big issue. Don't worry about any of that. Just know that I advise you open a Roth IRA. How do you do that? There's a couple different platforms that you can do that through. The big three are Fidelity, Vanguard, and Charles Schwab, but there are all sorts of different Roth IRAs platforms available. I use Fidelity, so that's what I'm going to show you guys how to open an account with. So real quick, you just go to Fidelity or whatever platform of you're choosing, click open an account, and we're opening a Roth IRA if you're following my advice. You can also just open a regular brokerage account, but I would recommend a Roth IRA. Go over here, Roth IRA, and you're probably not already a Fidelity customer, so you just go here and put in all your information. You'll have to later on put information about your job, about how much you make, what your title is, just so they can verify that you are employed. But yeah, you'll just put in all your personal information, and then later in this video I'll show you how to navigate the Fidelity site. But this is just establishing the account to begin with, which is the first and most important step. The basic advice for any investor is S&P 500. What is the S&P 500? It is a collection of 500 different companies weighted by how large their how big of a chunk of the American economy they make up. So the big five, I'm sure you recognize Microsoft, Nvidia, Apple, Amazon, and Alphabet, which is Google. They make up a very large percentage of the S&P 500. Each one is somewhere around 5%. There's 500 different companies in this though, so I mean, you go all the way to the bottom, you'll see, I don't know, companies I've never heard of. Where's Hasbro? I recognize Hasbro. They make up 0.02% of the S&P 500. So when you invest in the S&P 500, you are investing in all these different companies. You are investing in the American economy. The S&P 500 is only American businesses. On average, the S&P 500 has returned about 10% since 1957, about 10% every year, but inflation, that money is not worth as much as it was back in 1957, so on average it's really something closer to 6%. You can see here in past years what it's done. So 2025, it's been kind of a slow year so far. I wonder why. But in past years it has been pretty substantial. You can see 2022 was a bit of a rough year, but I mean, the S&P 500 has had a really killer past like 5-6 years, minus 2022, even 2016, 2017. The economy's been booming. You can see back in like 2008 when there was the housing crisis, a little bit of a rough year, but in general, it has had really high returns. So, what does that mean? If you are investing in a Roth IRA and you are maxing out your Roth IRA every year, and say you start this, say you're doing this for 35 years, or they say 40. There's all sorts of things you can play with. You can plug in a bunch of different numbers. If you invest $7,000 every year after 35 years at a 6% return, you will end with $780,000 in your balance. So say you do this for 40 years. You have an ending balance of over $1 million. That's at a 6% return rate, which is, as we looked at, the inflation adjusted number that the S&P returns. But man, this is gonna be a long video. I talk a lot. Sorry, I just saw a timer in the side and got distracted. But anyways, it was saying on average it does about 10%. So at a 10% return rate, you could have up to $3 million if you max out your Roth every year. No other investment or anything, and all this is completely tax-free. Keep in mind, this is post-income money, so you will get your paycheck that has already been taxed. It's not going to be taxed again once you put it into your Roth, but in a regular brokerage, it would be taxed again, any gains that you make. So I highly recommend the Roth IRA. Now, some things to look at when you're picking different stocks to invest. I don't really recommend picking stocks, especially as a beginner. I just advise picking a fund that looks at the S&P 500, putting money in that. That is the safest, smartest thing to do. But that's not the most fun. So I'll talk about a couple different things that you can look at if you are choosing to pick stocks. First off is an expense ratio. An expense ratio is, depending on what you're investing in, there is a fee for the fund manager to manage your fund. So if you're investing in a fund that mirrors the S&P 500, rather than having to go in and invest in each different S&P 500 company, because there's 500 companies there. You're not going to go buy 500 different companies. That's going to take forever. You just buy a fund that mirrors the S&P 500, something like VOO. VOO is the Vanguard S&P 500 index fund. So they charge a 0.03% expense ratio, and what that means is it's just a 0.03% fee every year. So we can look at our numbers from earlier. We were looking at something like, on the optimistic side, let's say you're investing for 40 years, $7,000 every year, and you're making 10% every year. We saw something around $3 million earlier. It's still something around $3 million. It's a very small 0.03%. Oh wait, that's 0.05. 0.03%. Very, very small number that's costing you over that 40 years. There are other funds that have much higher expense ratios. Here's a random one that I looked up that has a 13.94% expense ratio. That's going to cut into your numbers every year, and you'll end with $2 million. It's going to nice. The expense ratio is so high they say it's not even worth it. I didn't even know that error message would be there. That's a terrible expense ratio. If you ever see something like that, I do not invest. Generally, 1% or higher is considered not very good, as you can see here. What? It didn't even go. Oh, 13 was too high even. So this is just 1% right here. What? Okay, I think I broke it when I put in a super high number. Interesting. I'm not gonna edit it out. Well, that's something you just get to check out with me. Oh, okay. So we were looking at the 1% earlier when you'd make $2 million, and so if it was 5%, you would make $845,000 as compared to the $3 million from before, even with a 10% return. So that 13% that you saw earlier, it was so high that it can't even process that last 3. Nice. Yeah, so expense ratio matters. A lot of times you might see anywhere from like 0.05% to 0.5% to 1%. It'll cut into different amounts. Higher expense ratio, bad. I would try to stick with something like VOO, or there's another one over here, FXIX. This is Fidelity's version of the S&P 500 fund. Their expense ratio is 0.015, so not very high. Don't do something like this. This is terrible. This will not make you. This will lose you money. Dividends. Dividends are basically just a company, when it performs well, they might reward investors by giving them a little bit of money every quarter. So a company like Home Depot, for example, they have about a 2% dividend yield or dividend rate. Coke has also about 2%. So they will pay its investors every quarter as basically as an incentive or reward for being invested. Dividends are not going to typically make you much money unless you already have a lot of money invested, but it's an extra little, not exactly free money, but money they're just giving you for being invested, so it's a nice little bonus. My stocks that I would recommend investing, though, if you're new, are something like FXIX or VOO, just basic S&P 500 index funds. Like we said, they'll make about 10% a year. That's not guaranteed, but on average, especially over a 40-year trend, they're probably going to make something around 10% every year, which, depending how, if you're maxing out your Roth, you could retire with a lot of money in your account. So I'll do a little bit of how to navigate the Fidelity website and how to actually invest in a stock, but I don't know how to edit videos, so I'm going to try to blur personal information, but be patient with me because that is editing that I don't know how to do, so we'll be learning together. This is the Fidelity website. It's a little easier to navigate on mobile, I think. Here's the desktop version, and you can see here the value of my account over the last year. You can tell where I contributed. Here's where I contributed, and then I forgot to I contributed from my savings account, but I had contributed from my checking account, but I forgot to move the money from my saving to my checking account, so I didn't have enough, and it bounced, so I had to try again. But that's not the point of the video. This is a fun little side note. But the way that you would actually invest money in your first you have to put money into your Roth. You do not have money in your Roth to start out, so you go in and you put money in by saying transfer, and then so from there you can pick to do it from a bank, which is what I do. And so you would have you can add a bank here, and then once you have a bank, you can pick that you're putting money into your Roth IRA, and then you can put there's different contributions that you can put in. So say you want to put in money every month, and you can set up a recurring transfer from your bank, or you can just do a one-time lump sum and just keep up with it manually throughout the year. But you can only invest $7,000. If you invest more than you can put in $7,000 into your Roth IRA every year. Any more than $7,000, and you will be subject to government penalties and taxes and fees, bad things. So only $7,000. As you can tell, I'm already at my $7,000 limit, so I can't put any more in. $0 remaining. So you have money. How do we get out of here? So you've now put money into your Roth IRA. Now you have to invest it, because if that money just sits in your Roth IRA, it will not do anything. It will not make any money. This is basically just another bank account that has no interest. So it would be better to keep it in your bank at that point. So how are you going to invest that money? You would go over to trade, and now you find a stock that you want to invest in. So I recommended VOO. That's what I'm going to look up. Now it's time to buy a stock. The market is only open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 Eastern time. So Central time here where I am, it is only open from 8 to 4. You would go to buy, and you would say how much you're wanting to buy. So you could either buy individual shares, or you could do a dollar amount. The nice thing about Fidelity is it lets you do partial shares. 481 would not be enough to buy an entire share of Vanguard, but I could buy a half share or something if I wanted to, or just $400 worth, not 4,000. I can't actually order right now because it is the weekend. Oh, market. I don't know what limit means, so just click market. But yeah, it won't let me actually buy right now because the market is closed. So when the market's open, I could go and buy a however much of VOO I wanted to. Or the other one I recommended was FXAIX. One other thing to consider, especially in times of recession like this, is gold. I personally am heavily invested in gold at the moment because I have low faith in the American economy in this upcoming year. So in the past few years, this has been the average returns of gold. The gold share that I'm invested in, I don't know if it's the best one, it's just the one that I found. It has a little bit of a higher expense ratio, which I don't like, but it just tracks, it mirrors what gold does. So if you want to invest in gold, this is another thing that you could look at. IAU. But that is pretty much it as far as investing goes. You know how to open a Roth now. You know how to invest in the S&P 500, which is the textbook right answer for how to invest. And you know how to pick individual stocks if you want to do that by looking at expense ratios and if they pay dividends. Another way to know if they pay dividends is just look up stocks that have good dividends. Home Depot will be on the list, Coke will be on the list, I think Bank of America will be there. So there's some different things that you can look at. And if you have any questions or if there's anything that you think that I did not talk about in enough detail, please say in the comments. This ended up being a little longer than I would have liked. Maybe I'll try and do a little more condensed version this one day, but I think that everything I talked about here it's all relevant. And I think it's important to know why you're doing what you're doing rather than just doing it because somebody told you to. So knowing, why I'm investing in a Roth IRA compared to a regular brokerage, or what even is a Roth IRA compared to a brokerage. All good information. I'm going to stop talking now, so it's a shorter video. And I hope that you guys let me know if you have any questions or concerns or comments or anything. And if you guys like this or want to see some other financial kind of topic in the future, I'll be more than happy to talk about it. One of my next topics I'm thinking of talking about are credit cards or credit score and tips and tricks for how to boost your credit score. So let me know if you have any things you want to hear about, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.